there, my name's Megan and I am the Pony Club Centre coach here at Widbrook Equestrian Centre. This mini-series is going to focus on fitness, the fitness badge. Again, it's an achievement badge, there isn't a mini badge to go alongside it, so don't worry if you're generally working towards mini badges, just pick up what you can. The reason we're going to do fitting is because the Widbrook horses now have been off work for about 8 weeks. So they're generally quite unfit at the moment and they'll be having to come back into work soon. So it's useful to have a look at what sort of work they're going to be doing to come back into their fitness. Raven here has been working throughout the 8 weeks. Hopefully she is about half fit. She's not fully fit, she's about half fit because she only really stays at about half fit. So I thought it'd be a good one to take you through. The series again will be 4 weeks long. And we'll have a look at some questions as well, and then when we come back after lockdown we will be able to have a look at testing you on the badge. So I hope you enjoy it and follow us along for these 4 weeks. Pony Clubbers, so we are now starting the fitness badge. So this is week 1 of fitness, fitness of the horse, and we're going to be covering the syllabus, and the syllabus covers how to recognise whether a horse or pony is too fat or too thin, so looking at their fat covering. It also will look at fitting programs and how to get a horse or pony fit for various different activities. So the basic level of fitness, so how to get your pony started after some time off, so the basic level of fitness, and then how to get your pony fit, for example a one-day event, show jumping competition or a dressage competition, or a shortish endurance ride. So those are the ones that we're going to be looking at. As part of this, you'll also have a look at how you would put together a fitness plan. So we'll have some case studies for you and you can have a look at how you do that. Now the fitness doesn't just cover the exercise that the horse has to do, it also brings in what we learnt in the feeding badge, and also looks at the checks you need to make when you're bringing your horse back into work. So things like the shoeing of the horse, the fit of the tack, monitoring any changes with the fit of the tack, the feeding of the horse or pony. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration when you're getting your horse or pony fit. The other thing as well you need to take into consideration is any setbacks. So you may be looking at getting your horse fit for a competition in say 12 weeks time, but it might be that your horse takes longer than that. Or you encounter problems along the way, like lost shoes, or you get ill, or the pony goes lame. So it's those types of things, taking into account how can we be adaptable, how long it takes a pony to get fit, and then what you need to do to keep it at that level of fitness, and also how you'd rough the horse off again. So if you needed to give it a break, or you wanted to give it a holiday like ours at Widbrook have been on at the moment, how you would do that safely. So let's get cracking. So first things first, why do we want to get our horses fit? What's the point of doing so? Why can't we just get on and go round a cross-country course or compete in a show jumping event? Okay, so the reason we want to get our horses fit is for several reasons. So the first one is to make sure that they can perform at their best. So if we're going to go and do a cross-country round or compete in an event, we'd rather our horse was at peak condition or able to perform at their best, to do their best in that competition. For that reason, we're more likely to get round the course, we're more likely to complete the course, we're more likely to have a faster time or get a better result, as our horse is going to be able to perform at his best. Another reason is to avoid injury. So if our horse is fit enough to do the job, the chances are that he's going to be able to complete the task at hand without overly stressing or straining himself. That's going to save you in vets bills in the long run, and also means that you're keeping your horse healthy and happy over a longer term. So we want to think of fitness as a bit like a pyramid. So the longer you spend at the lower levels, so doing the slow work, building our horse up, the higher the peak of our pyramid. So we can get a much bigger pyramid. So the longer you spend down here, the higher the peak can be, okay? So we want to avoid those injuries. The reason that a horse can get injured if they're not fit is that they're more likely to fatigue, which means get tired or exhausted far more quickly. And when that happens, it's just as if you're doing something and you're overly tired, you're more likely to trip, you're more likely to stumble, you're more likely to pull a muscle, or you can even, fall down, which again means you're more likely to get injured. When we're bringing a horse back into work, we'll often put more protective equipment on them, so protective boots, just because they're more likely to stumble and trip and bump into themselves when they're getting fit. So essentially, the two main reasons we want our horses to be fit are so that they can perform at their best, so the performance is enhanced, and that their soundness and longevity in terms of their health and welfare are in place. So we keep our horses sound and healthy and happy, working for longer, and we're also able to have them perform at their best, to do their best when we're riding them. Hi there, pony clubbers. Okay, so part of the fitness badge is having a look and seeing, knowing the difference between a fit horse, a fat horse and a thin horse. Now, a horse can be fit and carrying too much weight. It can be fat and be unfit. It can be thin and unfit, and it can be thin and fit. Ideally, you want your horse to be fit and in the correct body condition for the type of work it's going to undertake. Now, using your 5-point scale, so 0 being emaciated, so very, very thin, 1 being poor, 2 being lean, 3 being good or ideal or moderate, 4 being fat, and then 5 being obese. There is a 9-point scale as well. Now, we've got Raven here. She is in work 6 days a week. However, this last week she has been walking rather than doing any proper work, simply because she needs a check with the back person and the vet, just to make sure everything's okay. So she's only been walking, but usually she's in work 6 days a week, and that is a combination of hacking, lunging, long lining, schooling and pole work. So she has a varied work routine. She is approximately 15'1", her weight is 480 kilograms. She's fed on a balancer just for her vitamin, minerals and protein, and that's it. She has nothing else in her feed bucket, and that's the recommended rates for her size. So that's 2 of the cups that you're given a day, and she is living out 24 hours a day. Now, that is important to know, because that is why she, as we will see, is covering more condition than she should be. All right, so a horse, as we learned in our feeding badge, can eat 5% of their body weight a day, when you only want them to eat 2.5. So they can double what they're supposed to eat in the field. Okay, so the way we would condition score her, so we're going to have a look at that now. You split the horse into 3 areas. So I'm just going to try and move her around. Okay, so we've got her here. So you split her into 3 areas. You split the neck, okay, that's all right, the neck to the shoulder, then you've got the barrel of the horse here, and you've got the quarters. So what you're looking for on the neck, you want to find, there is a neutral ligament that's in the neck, okay? You find that and you look for what fat's above it. So your top line, when that's building, is more this muscle here, which is your trapezius, and through here. So that's where you're looking at where the muscle's building up. And if you feel Raven, she has built some of it up. She still has some more work to go there, but it's above the nuchal ligament, which is here. So she's built up a bit on top. All right, and see that? So that's more than she should have up there. And you can see actually some of it is bubbling, like little knobbles. So she is carrying too much above there. All right, you don't want all of that up there. If you have a stallion, then a crest on a stallion is normal, so that's different, okay? But she's a mare, and mares and geldings shouldn't have that crest. That's part of what's created with the testosterone. But she does have some muscle, okay? So she does have the start of some top line. What we don't want is this muscle under here to be too developed. That suggests that they are working incorrectly. So we're aiming for this muscle here, these muscles, but we don't want it all up here because that suggests they're carrying too much weight, okay? So ideally we want it to be a 5, but she's probably more, sorry, a 3, but she's probably more of a 3.5, okay? Looking at the shoulder, you want to make sure there's a definite ridge. So here, you should be very clear dividing line between the neck and the shoulder. Hers is starting to disappear again, so she's edging more towards a 3.5 or a 4 than she is a 3. So this needs to lose some weight here, okay? Pockets of fat behind the scapula, again she has some, so she's more of a 4 on her mid here. Looking at the back, so again you want muscle across here, so that you need to know that there's enough strength across here to carry a rider, carry a saddle, but her back is becoming flat, alright? That means that she's carrying too much fat up here, whereas what you want is more of a dip shape. You don't want that, you do want a dip. So here, behind the withers, she's got more of one, but as you go further back, she's becoming flat. So she is a 4 across there. Alright, now across the ribs here, horses incidentally, they don't carry their weight on their underbellies. If you see a belly hanging down, that's because the horse isn't fit. The muscles, once they're in work, will tighten up under here and bring that up. So if you see them in the field where they're just looking like a hammock, that's because they're unfit, not necessarily fat. Horses don't carry fat under their belly. So, right, good go. Right, so the ribs, you should be able to feel them but not see them. Now I can feel these back here, but I'm having to press pretty hard. So again, she's carrying too much weight here. She needs to lose some weight. So again, more of a 3.5 to a 4. And then to the hindquarters, you want to make sure you can feel the point of hip really closely. And again, you should be able to cup round it. I can't. So she is 3.5 to a 4. She is overweight. Okay. Feel around the tail head to feel. You want some sponging back there, so you want some fat coverage there, but not too much. You should again be able to. It should be clean, clear through there. And looking directly behind the horse, you don't want them to have an apple bum. Now she's starting to have one of those, and you should be able to feel the ligaments at the top of the tailbone as well, which are difficult on her. So again, she is carrying too much weight. So we can give her 3.5 to a 4. So she is carrying more condition than we would like. We want her to be a 3. 2.5 to a 3. 2.5 is absolutely fine. My old mare Spirit, who was a thoroughbred, was usually a 2.5. Sometimes she was a 2, occasionally she was a 3, but usually she was around the 2.5. So Raven is carrying too much condition at the moment, alright? So she needs, what she needs is restricted grazing, ideally. So you'd want to restrict the amount that she's eating, as well as increasing the workload. Because she's already in work 6 days a week, we can't increase the days she works. What we'd have to do is increase the intensity of the work that she does. And we would also have to, we'd also have to increase maybe the time she's working as well. Yeah, and reduce what she's eating. This time of year they tend to put on more weight, they tend to lose weight over the winter. But you need to be able to tell the difference between a horse that is too fat or too thin. So as I say, she's got some fitness in there. She's not starting at the beginning. She has been in work continuously, which she had 1 week off. She had 1 week off at the start of just before lockdown because I was self-isolating, and then she's been back in work since. She's been working, as I say, 6 days a week, but the intensity has not been there, and she generally works for 45 minutes each time. So if she's doing slow work, that should be increased in length. That's one way you could increase that. You can increase it up to 2 hours a day. Or what you could do is increase the intensity that she works for in those 45 minutes. If she was too thin, what we'd be seeing is we would see a neck that almost looks like it's on upside down, so there'd be just nothing there. When the thinner the horse gets as well, the more they then start to lose muscle as well. Fat and muscle are two different things, but if the horse needs more calories, it will start to take away its muscle too. So you need condition on the horse, as in fat, for the muscle to develop. It's just getting that balance right. Raven's part native, so and she's an Irish draft cross, so she puts weight on very easily. Whereas if you've got something like a thoroughbred, they don't. So you're looking at how to build that up. So what you may find is that they'll have a dip through here where they've lost condition. That's also, sometimes they can have enough condition on them, that's why you've got to look at the whole horse rather than just looking at one specific area, because it might be that you look at the thoroughbred, it's got no top line, think it's underweight, and actually it's just not got muscle. You can see that quite often in thoroughbred, where actually if you feel along where you expect to feel fat, so along the shoulder, across the ribs, and look at it from behind, then actually they are carrying enough condition. It's just that they're not fit, and racehorses, ex-racehorses and thoroughbreds do tend to not have much top line, whereas something like this will have a top line, and to the extent that actually you'll look at it and think, oh, it's in good condition because it looks like it's got a good top line, when actually some of this is fat and needs to come off. So it's knowing what you're looking at and being able to tell the difference between the two. So muscle will build up. As I say, you've got to know where the muscles are that you're trying to build up. So you do have muscles along the back here, but this is where they then start to build up. They build up the fat across here. They don't build up on their bellies, that's why they've got a grass belly, which is not to do with fat. And then you can feel, I mean, if you feel here on Raven, you can feel the muscle in her hindquarters. Her hindquarters, the fat is up here, but here she's got muscle, so she's got a bit of both going on. You could have a horse that's in perfect health, but is too fat. That would be the case if you've had a horse that's been off in the field for a few months. And it might actually be in perfect condition. It might be 3. So it's the ribs, so you can feel the ribs but not see them. The shoulder is very clearly defined, but it's got a good covering, and you're not feeling the spinal processes too much up here. And you can feel hers a bit, which is good, which is why she's not a 5 or a 4.5. But she is starting to get a bit of guttering just along here, so that's why she's not a 3. So it's looking at that and looking at the overall horse and taking their breed into account and the type of work that they're in. So there can be various levels of fatness as well as various different levels of fitness. This image shows the 5-point scale system, which is used primarily or more commonly in the UK for condition scoring horses. So it starts with 0, which is very poor or emaciated, and goes up to 5, which is very fat. On this scale, you'd be aiming for your horse to be at a 3, which would be moderate. So here is the 9-point system, which is more commonly seen in the US. Feel free to pause the video at this point to have a closer look at all the different categories, but you can see that it starts 1 for poor and 9 for extremely fat, and 0 would be on there, which would be emaciated. You can now see in these images the scale, the 1 to 9 scale, starting from very poor all the way up to extremely fat. Okay, so now we've looked at why, how we can tell whether or not our horse is fat or thin, or fit or unfit. We need to know, well, why is that important? Why do we even care? So it's important to be able to tell the difference between a fat or a thin horse. Firstly, for their welfare considerations, regardless of whether or not we're going to exercise or ride them, even if we're just going to leave them in the field and let them be horses their whole life, we still need to be aware of what condition they're carrying. If they become too lean, so if they're looking at a 2 or below, or they are looking too big, so they are going over a 3, 3.5 or above, then we need to take action. The horse that's underweight, we need to feed them more, they're not getting enough calories, and the horse that's overweight, we need to reduce their calories. That's really important, because if the horse gets too lean, then they're going to have health issues. They're not going to be able to keep warm. They are going to potentially have a lower immune system. They're going to struggle more in terms of if a rider does want to ride them, they're not going to be able to hold any muscling. So they're going to be too weak to carry a rider. So it's important to bear that in mind. As well as if they're losing weight, they could continue to lose weight, and eventually if they lose too much weight, they die. They need enough weight on to be able to live. Really important. If a horse is carrying too much weight, then the issues that you're going to have are increased risk of conditions such as laminitis, which is a painful condition of the feet, increased risk of concussion because the horse is carrying too much weight. They're going to find it more difficult to perform any strenuous activity or even much activity at all. They're going to be loading their joints more, so they're going to be carrying more on their joints and putting more strain on their ligaments and tendons. So those are some of the reasons why we don't want our horses to be overweight. Neither being overweight or underweight is healthy. Given out of the two, we tend to look at being underweight as more unhealthy, but actually for the horse, being slightly underweight is preferable to being slightly overweight. And the reason for that is that, one, it can be easier to get the weight back on, as in you can do it quicker. It can be quicker than losing weight, whereas getting the weight off a horse, you have to do it very carefully, very gradually. So you have to be quite careful how you do that. The other thing as well with overweight is that you're more prone to more conditions. So underweight looks awful when they're really underweight. We've seen some horrible cases, and when they get really skinny, obviously that's really they compromise their immune system and their body starts shutting down. That's really not good. But when it comes to being overweight, even just being a bit overweight starts to really compromise the horse, and that they're then more susceptible to laminitis, more susceptible to joint injuries, and more susceptible to other conditions. So it's really important that we consider both to be a welfare issue, and so we take steps to manage both of those. Winter is when you tend to see more weight loss. Summer is when, spring and autumn is when you tend to see more weight gain. And that's normal for the horse. They would lose in the wild. They would lose their they'd lose condition in the winter because there's not so much grass and it's colder, and they'd use up their reserves keeping warm. And then in the spring and autumn, that's when they would put that weight on, which is why, because we keep our horses in good condition over winter, when it comes to spring and summer, this happens and we get a little bit chubby. Your horse can be perfectly healthy and unfit. If it's at the right weight condition, that's absolutely fine. If you don't ride it and do anything with it, it's fine. If you want to ride it, or exercise it or compete it or anything like that, you need to get the horse fit. The reason for that is you want to make sure that your horse is able to undertake any exercise that you ask of it without undue strain or stress. So that's why it's important to have a fit horse if you want to ride it or compete it or anything like that, or for it to perform in any way. And the weight management is a welfare concern. So all horses need to be monitored regularly, maybe every 2 weeks with a weigh tape, or a weigh bridge if you have one, which is where you pop the horse on some scales and get them weighed. I know that Raven's been on both. She's been on a weigh bridge at camp and she's been weighed with a weigh tape. She was I think she was 480 kilograms or 460, either one or the other. I've got it written down somewhere, and we built a plan based on that. But she only gets balancer, as I say, because she doesn't need extra calories. And also, weight is one thing, but you do need to palpate the horse, which means touch it. You need to feel where the fat's building up and being aware of where fat build-up takes place. And if you have something that is a native cross or is a colder blood type horse or a warm blood, they are going to put more weight on than, say, a thoroughbred horse. So you just need to be aware of that, because the natives would be used to getting calories out of nothing. They can live on fresh air. So it's really important this time of year to make sure that you keep an eye on all of those things. So that's it for this week. Next week we're going to have a look at the basic fitting programme. See you then.